This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi, curious minds out there in our ever-expanding radio land. Welcome to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. That's me. This is the only radio show in the world dedicated to the study of coincidences, synchronicity, and serendipity. We are coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, located in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and broadcasting all over the world. I am a psychiatrist. I am building on the synchronicity studies of psychiatrist Carl Jung, who was a theoretician, and I am attempting to be more practical about synchronicity. The phrase, connecting with coincidence, is my coincidence brand. It is the name of my book, my Psychology Today blog, my website, and my social media sites. Be sure to visit my YouTube channel too. To find any and all of them, please put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine. Would you like to know how sensitive you are to coincidences? Take the Weird Coincidence survey on my website. Coincidences can help with the practical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of your life. They let us know we have abilities like telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and human GPS. Human GPS is our ability to get to places we need to go without consciously intending to go there. And yet we need to be there, and we find that out when we arrive. Coincidences point us towards other intelligences that may be influencing our lives, and they sometimes trick us. Synchronicities offer a path towards spiritual development. Unlike meditation, which is primarily self-involved, synchronicities show us how connected each of us is to our surroundings. Our minds function in our mental atmosphere, the psychosphere. Just as we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, we also inspire energy information and send out energy information. The scaffolding of the psychosphere is being strengthened by the rapid development of the internet. This scaffolding provides support for our psi abilities, telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and psychokinesis. Our guest today is Laurence Brown. Laurence proposes 4 categories or explanations of coincidences in his book, The Many Faces of Coincidence. His primary focus in that book is explanation. In my view, there are other categories to pay attention to. They include coincidence processes and coincidence uses. But Laurence has brought to our consciousness some excellent ways of thinking about that third category, explanations. They include random chance, that is a probability that could be calculated mathematically, natural cause, which can be accounted for by standard theories of physical and mental causation, which includes psychodynamic, psychological explanations, and supernatural causes, the paranormal elements I mentioned earlier, like telepathy, and the most interesting category to him, and to many of us, synchronicity. He's offering a defined definition, a clearer definition of synchronicity, which has been used in so many different ways. 2 chapters of Laurence's book deal with the extraordinary coincidences which occur within cosmology and quantum physics. They demonstrate that our existence on this planet relies on coincidences far more remarkable than anything on the human scale. He describes them as a stunning array of cosmic coincidences that have set the stage for life on Earth. They are both intricate and profuse. It cannot be denied we live in a universe with a profound mystery at its core. The three areas of cosmic coincidences he discusses include the conditions of the Big Bang. What did it take for the Big Bang to happen? The confluence of, quote, Goldilocks, end quote, conditions that made life on Earth possible. And by Goldilocks, it's reminding us of, for Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who found that the porridge of the three bears was one was too hot and one was too cold and one was just right. And that's what we can say about many of these cosmic coincidences. The remarkable thing to me in this group of cosmic coincidences is chlorophyll. That's not exactly what Laurence is talking about, but just to have chlorophyll around, that green that's on our plants, convert sunlight into something we can eat. We are actually living on light with chlorophyll as an intermediary. And the conditions that made it possible for chlorophyll to exist in the leaves of our plants that allow us then to survive are part of the great mystery that Laurence describes in his Goldilocks descriptions of cosmic coincidences. He also points out that as we understand the universe better, the physical universe, we find ourselves in real peril over our own future and of biodiversity. We will be back after a short break with Laurence Brown.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. We're focusing on the many faces of coincidence, a book recently published by Laurence Brown from Australia, who describes different categories of coincidences with a specific focus on explanations. Laurence was born in the UK in 1951 to parents living in the Far East and spent much of his childhood there in the Far East. Though at the age of 9, he was sent to boarding school in England. After secondary school at Oxford, he came to Australia, where he has lived much of his life and worked mainly as a teacher of English as a second language. He's married, 2 daughters, lives in Brisbane. I like that he enjoys bushwalking, which is not exactly what we do here in Charlottesville, or when we call it that, but I'd like to go for a bushwalk with you sometime, Laurence. Sounds like a lot of fun out there.
It's very beautiful.
I bet it is. His inner life has been very interesting to him since he's been searching for the possibility of an inner truth. He's been a regular meditator since since the 1970s. And since his teaching wasn't leading any place for him intellectually and emotionally, he decided to get a PhD degree. And what else would anybody want to get a PhD degree but on coincidences? I'm so glad that you did it. And it's so much fun to hear people getting degrees in coincidence studies in some form or another. It's great that you did it. Laurence is officially retired now, and he is having a good time, as I understand it, talking with people about his new work. Laurence, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, Bernie. I'm delighted to be on your radio show.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. When did you first get interested in coincidences, and how did you have the Yiddish word is chutzpah, or like cojones to go for one in coincidence studies. So how'd you do that?
Okay, well, how I got into it was quite interesting. I came out after school. I came out to Australia, and was at university in Melbourne, and we were young then, and there were a few experimental substances, and one day I was out on a beach at night with my girlfriend at the time, and I looked up at the stars, and I was looking at these beautiful patterns which we have in the southern hemisphere. It's probably the Southern Cross, and just staring up at it, suddenly there came out of me this sort of unbidden prayer from where I don't know. If there is a true love, please help me. And this started to pour out of me, and I let it go. And then after that, one thing after another, I bumped into this and bumped into that, and eventually met her. I felt guided after that. So there was something started to change from that moment, and I started to get coincidences.
I would like to ask you a little bit more about that. A prayer bubbled up in you on that beach under the moonlight, or at least under the starlight, and you felt guided after that. Could you tell us that experience of feeling guided, and also how you knew that she was her for you?
Oh, it wasn't any girl involved in this. Is that what you mean by she?
Well, you were guided. You were looking for love. So
I wasn't looking. I said if there's a true love. In fact, true love wasn't a romantic love.
Excuse me for being a romantic.
No, that's okay, because it was. I felt guided in my life after that, in my life's direction, because at that time I didn't feel, I didn't know where I was going. I was young, and I eventually ended up with a yoga teacher, and from there other things happened, and I just felt like my steps were taken care of. And then later on, a couple of years later, I became introduced to the I Ching, and doing that for the first time, which is sort of like a way of sort of encapsulating synchronicity in a structural form. I really was hit. My God, there is something about this whole thing. But my first one was that I had no sense before that point, but feeling guided was talking to this person, and then suggesting to that person, and then to this person, to that person, and then one's whole life is kind of on a trajectory.
I'm getting the feeling more just in my life is that you can walk around through life and you can ask people questions, and sometimes you get really great answers just by following an intuition to start a conversation with someone.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it was like that. Perhaps it was something was dislodged in me, and then I started seeing things in a different way, that it wasn't anything cosmic, but it was perhaps something quite logical that had happened. But the fact that this thing poured out of me, was remarkable, because I didn't believe in God or anything. I didn't believe in anything. And yet if there's a true love, and the true love was looking at the stars. It wasn't looking at the girl. It was looking at the stars. Not that I like looking at girls, but the stars was something was resonating in me. And
that's such an important distinction and non-distinction that we're talking about here. There's a good literature in various places that the depth of romantic love becomes a stepping stone or stairway to more cosmic love for some people.
It can be, but romantic love, as we know, can also be a huge trap.
A huge trap. A huge trap. No question about it. But anyway, you wanted to feel love with the cosmos, I suppose.
Well, I wanted to find the truth. I wanted to find what is real.
So love and truth and real were synonyms for you.
Well, they weren't in intellectually, but they seem these things seem to come together.
Got it. Okay, I've got the idea.
Okay.
I've got the idea. So you began the yoga teacher and the I Ching and other events and other people that you talked about, and then you somehow developed the intention to do this somewhat odd thing, which is get a PhD or get a degree in coincidence.
Well, that was quite a lot of time later. That's getting into the 2000s. Well, I was teaching in 2009. I said, I'm fed up with teaching. I'm getting older and the kids are getting younger, and I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to let go and allow whatever comes up. If it comes up, it comes up. And a friend of mine said, why don't you go to the university and apply to do a PhD? And I did, and one person sent me to another person, and then to another person. And finally, I met with this chap in the philosophy department, and I had a list of 5 possible things which I could do, which I thought of doing. Like one was I hadn't any idea of, particularly on coincidences. But coincidence was number 4 on my list, and that was the only one he liked. So I said, right, we're running with this one. And then it happened from there. And
that wasn't Lance Storm, was it?
No, it wasn't Lance Storm. It was a guy called Phil Dow, who's now in ANU in Canberra. So I didn't know Lance until later. He became an examiner for my PhD. And so I started to research into this, and it was fascinating.
Excuse me, just for the fun of it, I want to hear more about that. Just for the fun of it, the guy that picked number 4 from you, his last name sounded like Dow.
Phil Dow. I mean, I didn't realize that until after the PhD. I said, I just realized your name is Dow. It's pretty amazing. And Phil means love. Philosophy. So he's Phil Dow. In fact, this is another one. My whole thing has been a Phil Dow experience. So I really had no intention of particularly doing that, but I'm glad it was that, and glad he liked it, and I got on very well with him, and he really left me alone, and I was really able to do it in the old style of doing PhDs where they don't interfere with you and you're able to explore. And each chapter of this just came out as if by itself, and was structured in a very creative way. And basically that's what's become the book. But turning it from a PhD into a book was basically cut the paragraphs in half and put footnotes instead of brackets for references, and just present it in a nice way, and that's what I've done.
How did you? And the nice way includes just some very excellent explication of quantum physics.
Well, I knew nothing about quantum physics, so I thought, well, it seems to me that there are not only human level coincidences, but there are both quantum, tiny coincidences, plus cosmic coincidences. Now, the cosmic coincidences are quite a few, but quantum seem to be only basically 2. And those 2 are the double slit experiment, where if someone is watching, is watching the experiment, the photon always comes out as a particle, But if they're not watching, it will express itself as a wave. So that is a coincidence. The observer is involved, even if whatever the explanation is. If the observer is looking, it's a particle. If the observer is not looking, it manifests as a wave. But as we can see from the results on the double slit experiment. And the other one is entanglement. You have a particle which is a plus and minus version of the same particle, and they can be separated, and their movements will mirror each other so far beyond the speed of light that it means that time and space must be unreal at a very profound level. So that kind of blew my mind researching that area.
That's very well said. That's very well said. We have about a minute and a half left on this segment. I want to get into the macro coincidences, the cosmic coincidences that are the Goldilocks ones, and there are so many of them. Let's just give us a brief summary of them, and then we'll go into some detail.
Well, okay. The Goldilocks idea is that it's not too. I remember that there was a cigarette ad when I was young. It's not too strong, not too light. Viceroy's got the taste. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
So it's like the Earth is in a viceroy position or a Goldilocks position, not too far out, not too close. And there are so many of these in our solar system. The planets' orbits are all almost circular, except for Mercury and Pluto. The size and the distance of the moon, which we can, it's been described by the astronomer John Barrow as Earth's dancing partner. Without the moon, the length of the day would be a quarter of what it is now. And if that was the case, life could not possibly have emerged because it wouldn't have had the stability. And
well, we're coming to the end of this, but I didn't know that one about the moon makes the day longer. We'll come back to the moon and other things in our next segment after a short break.
Okay.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to CC with BB. Our guest today is Laurence Brown, author of the recently published book, The Many Faces of Coincidences. I love the title because it's right up my line, looking for categories and coincidences. And what we're talking about, the cosmic coincidences that allow life on Earth to exist as it is. And we're just talking about the moon, and my favorite thing about the moon is that you can get an eclipse, which is a way of saying that from where we're standing, the sun and the moon look like they're about the same size. And the proportion of the distance and the diameter of each of those heavenly orbs makes it so they look like they're the same size. The moon's smaller and it's closer, and the proportion makes the moon the same size as the sun. So the ancients didn't know the difference. One was cooler than the other, and they could attribute qualities to them as being at the same level. But this idea that the moon stabilizes the day to 24 rather than a quarter of that, could you tell us a little more about that, Laurence?
Well, I don't know too much about that, except that I read it, that without the moon, the length of the day would be a quarter of what it is now. And also, it stabilizes the Earth's orbit, and So it's kind of that's why John Barrow calls it the dancing partner. It's sort of
Mhm.
they hold each other together by their gravity. And if there was 1 or 2 degrees shift in the Earth's orbit, there could be an ice age. So there would be these shifts which would make us far less stable, and the conditions for having life and allowing the oceans to settle and the volcanoes to settle wouldn't happen.
Huh.
So that's one thing.
That's one of them. What else?
Well, another one is in the we have beyond us is Jupiter and Saturn, and in the early part of the solar system, these planets, by their gravity, pulled away a lot of the space debris and asteroids that might otherwise have hit the Earth, and we could still be suffering from that now if these weren't there. So it could be that Jupiter is a huge protector of the Earth. That when we look up at that particular second brightest planet in the sky, we don't realize that without that we wouldn't be here. Without the moon, we wouldn't be here.
Huh.
Obviously, without the sun, we wouldn't be here. But all these things, it's all very interesting. And not only that, the Earth and the sun are just the right size for each other, and the Earth's distance, as I said, is in the Goldilocks zone for life. But we're a Goldilocks planet in the Goldilocks zone of the Goldilocks part of the galaxy. So in the galaxy, if we were any closer, it would be too close. It would be, if we were any further away, it would be too far away. This is according to Michio Kaku, one of his books. So we're definitely in a Goldilocks. So all that can be ascribed by chance. So in a vast infinite universe, which it seems there are more galaxies than sand on the beaches, very possibly. I don't know, but this is from what I've been reading. It's likely that a planet of this precision would exist somewhere. But whether there's any others in this galaxy is absolutely, we don't know. They always say, oh yeah, we found a new exoplanet with Goldilocks conditions, but it never quite appears to be right. So this is unbelievably incredible, impeccable. There's also a book that I read that I didn't read. I saw the title. It's called The Three Big Bangs. And the first Big Bang is the Big Bang of the universe. The second Big Bang is the Big Bang of life. How did life come out of chemicals? And the third Big Bang is the Big Bang of consciousness. So those are all explanations which they haven't got to yet. But these are not the only cosmic coincidences.
Yeah.
Another lot are called the constants of nature. And these are the seemingly arbitrary numbers that underpin the laws of physics. And there's some debate as to how many. Perhaps there are 20 or 30. But one of these is the cosmological constant, which explains why the expansion of the universe is accelerating. When it was first discovered in 1998, it was found to be 10 to the 120th times less than what had been expected by quantum theory. And I'm reading this now. And were it only 10 to the 119th times less, galaxies would not have been formed. Had it a negative value, the universe would have collapsed on itself before life was even a possibility. According to Paul Davies, one measure of what is involved can be given in terms of coin flipping. The odds of 10 to the 120 to 1 is like getting no fewer than 400 heads 400 times in a row. I mean, you can't get heads 400 times in a row. As he says, if the existence of life in the universe is just a coincidence, then those are the odds against our being here. The level of flukiness seems too much to swallow, he says. And these figures dwarf into almost complete insignificance any of the low probability coincidences that are so often the cause of controversy here on Earth. Like if someone wins the lottery twice or something very unexpected happens. The fact that we exist is so unbelievable and so many subtle factors coming together. But people aren't aware of it and are destroying this incredible planet. which may be one in an octillion or something like that.
Hey, that is your third idea in this section, but would you talk about some other of the Goldilocks?
The Goldilocks, right?
The capacities.
Well, I don't. I'm not too. There's things like tectonic plates, and as you say, chlorophyll, and it's so many of these things. I haven't actually really got into them, but yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we can leave them alone.
We can leave them
for now, because I read some of them too, and I don't remember them, but there are a bunch of them. There's something about protons and neutrons and their ratio, or electrons and their ratio, that it's somehow just right for a balance or the weight of them.
Yeah, I don't know that one, but there's all these things that just so finely tuned together. Now, the scientists who, you can say the more atheistic scientists, just say, well, we live in a universe of 100 to the 500ths, some enormous number of possible universes. Therefore, there must be one that has these wonderful situation as we have, and therefore we're living in it. So therefore, there's not chances. It's just that's how it is. It's just a brute fact. So you can't say, well, because of this, therefore God exists or something like that. All you can do is marvel at the intricacy of it.
And how do you think about it? Do you just marvel, or do you think of something else?
I think I think that's it brings me down to my real interest in this area is what is going on when a synchronicity happens.
Yes.
It kind of blows your mind, because it can be so acute, and so the impact can be so great that you wonder, wow. And Jung basically said there were I'll just give the example of one that I had, which I think I related to you.
Yes, you did.
I was sitting on an airplane, and I was listening to an iPod, and the chap was talking about people with frozen emotions, and he said, if you have frozen emotions, it's like frostbite. You don't actually feel your limbs. If you don't actually feel your limbs until they start to thaw, and then it's very painful. And I thought, well, that's a very good analogy, but it doesn't really refer to me. And then I was just glancing around, and on the tea table of the lady sitting next to me on the plane, there was a novel, and the name of the novel was Frostbite. And when I saw that, there was an instant recognition, before I analyzed it, of it does refer to me.
Mm.
And
so what do you think was going on there, and what did it mean for you?
Well, what it meant for me is that I probably do have frozen emotions, and I have to be more aware of that and not just dismiss it. So it's a very simple one. It wasn't like a sort of super duper thing. Having read a lot of...
But a useful one to you.
It was useful. Absolutely useful.
It startled you and made you feel that it was referring to you, and it became a message to you about you, which is fundamental to the whole coincidence.
Yes, but the interpretation was after the synchronicity. And the interpretation can be, that's my personal way of looking at it. But the synchronicity was that moment of what Jung called meaning equivalence between the inner in my psyche and the external in the physical world. And looking through his stuff, there are basically three ingredients for a full-blown synchronicity. And one is meaningful coincidence. A second is what he called absolute knowledge. There's just like an absolute knowing before you conceptualize. And the third is what he said is a sense of the numinous. So those are very similar. What he is almost like a mystical experience, especially certainly in nature mysticism, when you see something beautiful and then you just stop, and there's an equivalence between yourself and the view. and there's an absolute knowing that it is beautiful without even the word beautiful, and there's a sense of awe. I'd like to give another example, because usually these things happen to yourself, but observing it to happen to someone else is also very interesting. And in this case, it was my cousin, and my cousin had recently been divorced. She's in England, and I went to see her, and I bought a book with me, which I thought might be useful for her. It's called Gamma Healing. And I went to her house, and her daughter was there and said, "Oh, Mum's on the phone. You just sit around, have a seat, and wait a moment." And she was on the phone for a while, and finally she got off the phone, came in and said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then I shoved the book straight into her. It wasn't wrapped or anything like that. And she looked at it and goes, "Ah." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "I can't believe it. I just got a job with a company called Gamma." And the book's name was Gamma Healing. And she just saw the net thing. It reflected straight back to her. And since then, she's done very well in that job, and has been a Gamma Healing. And she's probably never even opened that book. So, these things, when they happen like that, it's pretty hot stuff.
It's pretty hot stuff. And
it's an indication, yeah.
Yeah. And it's an indication of what?
Well, for her, it's an indication that there's something right going on. There's a protection. There's little hints from life that you're okay.
Yeah,
very subtle things can be.
That's probably, in my categorization of uses, confirmation tends to be the most common one that coincidences are used for. Yeah. Now we're coming to the end of this segment, and
these segments are going fast.
Always when you're having fun, Leonard. Always when you're having fun, Laurence. So we're having fun, and what I want to get to the most fun for you and me is let's talk about explanation in our last segment. So
we'll do that.
Good. We'll be back after a short break.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Oh, welcome back to CC with BB, connecting with coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman. That's me. Our guest today is Laurence Brown. And we've been talking about a variety of things, but we're going to head for the central core right now of Laurence's thinking, explanations for synchronicities. And he does that by dividing coincidences into several categories, which we'll go through quickly, because I want to get to the synchronicity category. That's where the most fun is.
Okay. Well, just one thing I found doing this is the categories get mixed up really easily.
Oh, yeah.
So the actual categorization is extremely difficult. As a theoretical idea, it's a good one, but actually to pin something down can be pretty tough.
And let me say one problem with it. It's not just one explanation. That every coincidence has, at least theoretically, a probability.
Yes.
So that's a quality of a coincidence, is to have a probability. It's not necessarily an explanation.
Okay. A probability. No, well, yeah, right. Okay, no, that's right. So you mean a probability of happening?
Yes.
Okay. So if something has a low probability of happening, it can still be chance and not synchronicity. And a synchronicity can have a much higher chance of happening and can be synchronistic. And the synchronistic quality is far more significant than its chance factor.
I hadn't thought of that, baby, although I run into that too. I hadn't thought of that one. Okay, so that's part of the fun of this. That's good. Medium probability can be highly synchronistic. That's
and
good.
Low probability doesn't mean synchronicity.
Although it tends to be in that direction. And
well, it can be. No, I think there should be a distinction between a synchronicity, which is a meaningful coincidence that touches the heart, and a wow factor synchronicity is, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like two golfers whose balls hit each other. They're both hitting the ball at the same time. The balls hit and fall down. They go and say hello, and their names are both Kevin O'Brien. I mean, that may be meaningful, but it's usually put in those books as a wow factor coincidence rather than a meaningful coincidence. And there's a very important distinction there.
That's good. Okay, please keep talking about what you're thinking about there. Very good.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe it. That's not the same as, like your heart is touched.
Oh yeah, no, I really do get that. I think what I mean is, please go on about explanation in other forms, because I think you're making an excellent distinction there. Excellent.
All right. So my basic four categories was, chance. Someone wins the lottery is chance. The next one is causal categories, and the most interesting things of these are simultaneous inventions. So you have Wallace and Darwin both coming up with a theory of evolution at the same time. Well, why? Is that a chance coincidence? No, they both read Malthus, Thomas Malthus, his book about population. And so you look at this stuff, how many people invented the light bulb or the telephone at the same time, because the technological structure was there for these inventions to occur. So you have what's called common cause coincidences. Another good one is people saying the same thing at the same time. And that could be because there's a sort of seed planted, say, 2 minutes earlier in the conversation, which causes their chains of thought to go a similar way. And they go, wow, I was thinking just that. Well, that's not necessarily a synchronicity. There's causal chains involved. So the whole causal area is very interesting as well.
Yes.
And then you have things like knowing who's on the phone, and then thinking you know who's on the phone, and then finding it's somebody else.
Yeah.
So there's all, so that there are. This one story I have there is this woman's this woman's at dinner with someone, and suddenly she said, I've got to go home. Something's wrong with my husband. And there hasn't been a phone call or anything. So she rushes home and finds him on the floor, and he's had a heart attack. So she calls the ambulance and he's okay. So that to me is telepathic. And however that works, I don't know, but it's some sort of sixth sense that she had. If there's any synchronicity, it's that she arrived before he had died.
Yeah.
And was able to save him. So you have the two factors there at the same time, but you kind of have to separate the A from the B, and not necessarily lump it all in one area.
I'm just thinking about what you're saying, because I had not used registering in the heart as a way of defining synchronicity.
It touches the heart as much as the mind. Yeah. It's
Touches
something. Yeah, this is a quote from Marie-Louise von France, which I have in my book, and it's very beautiful. It's something very. There's a beautiful, numinous, magical quality where you just feel. Ah, I think a true synchronicity has that. And what's behind it? Because we will certainly run out of time. Now, Jung suggested this idea of the unus mundus, which means the one world, and he said, and this is now called dual aspect theory. It's called the Pauli-Jung conjecture in official philosophical circles, coined by a guy called Harold Atmanspacher. And this idea that that the mind is not an epiphenomenon of the brain, that consciousness does not come out of matter, that both matter and psyche are two aspects of one unbroken unity. That's the one world, the unus mundus. And when we have a synchronistic experience, in that moment, somehow the gates are open. When, for me, frostbite, the inner and outer frostbites become one, and you get back to that unity again, just for a split second. And you don't necessarily, you get that in synchronistic experiences. And for my cousin, seeing Gamma, and Gamma had just given her a job, just a touching of the heart on that. She saw the one world. But as soon as you think about it, two worlds again.
As soon as you think about it, it's two worlds again.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
That is good.
the seer and the seen becomes two and not one. Because in the synchronistic moment, the barrier just falls for that split second.
Good. I don't have a question right now. I'm just thinking about what you're saying. So it's really cool. So
that's good.
Let what come. Open the filter and let it out.
Well, my last chapter is about the Tao, because Jung's very interested in that, and really a lot of this stuff discovered, the Chinese already have that sense in their traditional philosophy. And in their paintings, they try and capture that in their poetry as well. This sense that there is an incredibly profound interconnection. And and the Tao is a much more ancient dual aspect concept with yin and yang, much more ancient than the unus mundus, and much broader. And to me, it really works as a way of understanding it theoretically, which is already there. I haven't really got into the Indian philosophy's way of looking at it, but I have it in the Chinese, possibly because I was brought up in the Far East.
Yes. We have about 2 minutes left, and I think you're familiar with Jung using the I Ching to ask the I Ching just what it was here for, what its job was.
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, and that's you know that Jung's widely read. Jung is famous. He's written so many books and volumes. His most widely read piece of writing is his foreword to the Wilhelm I Ching. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing people have read most about Jung, where he said, well, I could have asked, he consults it, and he says, well, I could have asked the question again, but it would be impolite. It gives one answer in that moment.
Is that the cauldron
I think it may have been the Ting.
Because that was that's what I recall, and that the cauldron is a holder of food and translated into a holder of spiritual energy and information.
That's right. But another thing is what I've felt is that the oracle is everywhere. That the gates between this world and the other world, and the two worlds, our inner world and outer world, are more amorphous than we usually tend to think. And
Yes.
little hints from outside can come and touch us inside.
Yes, and as we come to the end of this, and that's a wonderful end to get to, is that
Yeah.
coincidences alert us to the symbolic aspects of lots of stuff that's going around us.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
It can make you crazy if you see too many of them and try to
Yes.
interpret them. But if you can walk around and have a little detector that allows you to say, this one I'm going to pay attention to, there's a
Yeah.
lot of information coming to us from around
Yes.
us.
Unbelievable amount of information. And answers are everywhere.
Answers are everywhere. Laurence Brown, you've answered some wonderful questions for us. Thank you for being on the program with me.